Welcome to this episode of Nerd Bytes. Today we're looking at an alert incident. We're going to try to understand what this incident is telling us, and then we'll try to see what the root cause of that problem might have been. So first off, we're looking at an incident. In this case, it is closed. We can see up here that this incident is currently closed. So you can imagine that this scenario is when you're coming in to look at an incident, when you're performing a retrospective, trying to understand what went wrong to make sure it doesn't happen again. But also the same processes can be implemented if this was an open incident and you're just looking at the open violations here. So we can see that there are two violations as part of this incident, both of those listed here. The first one here is a transaction query. So this is an NRQL condition. We can see that NRQL query over here. We can see that, yes, that was a transaction query on response times that increased for the 5-minute period that our threshold has defined. The second violation is a high CPU. So this is an infrastructure condition here. So high CPU on the host proxy west 2 server. For this transaction query, we are looking at the proxy west application. So it's an application running on that same server. So these are interconnected violations. I can make the assumption here that the transaction response time spiked because of the high CPU on the host. Typically, you would want to look into each and every violation. Because this is a short video, I'm making the assumption that the transaction query response time is increased because of the high CPU. So that's where I'll spend most of my time. And to do that, and to investigate this a little bit further, I'm going to click into Go to Host Proxy West 2 Overview. That'll open up in a new tab for me here in Infrastructure. And here we'll see we're focused on that host proxy west 2 host over here, at the same time frame up in the time picker up here as our incident. And we can see, yes, our CPU spiked quite drastically here. Our load average suffered a bit as well, and memory free had some activity around the same time as well. So perhaps I want to see what was running on this host at the time that could have triggered that CPU spike. So to do that, I'll look at processes. So processes is up here. This is going to show me every process that was running on the host at that time. And we can see this blue line looks like it represents the biggest impact on this host during that time frame. And that correlates down here with an account service. So now we can see that we're pretty sure that that high CPU was triggered by something going on in this account service application or package on this host. But how can we confirm that? How can we be so sure? Well, we can see that along this timeline, there are a series of events that occurred. So to take a look in a little bit more detail, I'll click into the Events tab. Now this has maintained our filter here on the host and the time range up here as well. So we're still looking at the same data, just obviously looking at it in a list of events kind of view. So here we can see, if we start from the earliest time range down here at 10:14, a user connected to this host, L. Cerny connected to this host. Shortly after, this account service package was installed, and then shortly after that, it was modified. It is after this point when that high CPU violation starts to open. So we've got a warning violation and then a critical violation here. So here we're making the assumption that this L. Cerny user installed this account service and modified that account service, but that obviously went sort of unexpectedly wrong, and it triggered this high CPU alert. So perhaps this L. Cerny user received the notification from this critical violation that generated that incident. He got that notification, he came in, and he decided to just remove that account service package to resolve that incident. And then obviously you can take a look into it afterwards to see if there's anything you can do to stop that from happening next time you try to install that account service. So you can see that as soon as that package is removed, the critical violation closes, the warning violation closes, and then that user disconnects. So their job is done. They installed a package, it went wrong in terms of CPU usage, and so they removed it, and then they disconnected and went about their day. So we've gone from an incident to analyzing what happened on the host during that time, to getting a series of events, including the user who could have been responsible for this. And so we essentially have our root cause figured out.